TIFU by trashing a treasured family memento. Because it made me feel excluded, then asking Reddit for their opinion.
Me, 15F, and my brothers, 22M, Dad passed away when I was around 4. Growing up, it always seemed like my mom and brother had special connection I didn't share, because they remembered my dad, and I didn't really have many memories of him. It would annoy me sometimes when they would talk about him, and ask me if I remember certain things when obviously I don't. So I feel left out. They stopped doing that so much when I told them it bothered me, though I could tell it made them upset. That stuff was just annoying, I guess. But the thing that feels unfair is we have this big piece of wood with my brother's baby picture cut into it, made by my dad, who was a pretty good artist and did woodworking as a hobby. It's the first thing most people notice when they come to our house, because it's big near the front door and does look fancy, like it's from a museum or something. So whenever anyone, even my friends, comes, it's the first thing they see and talk about. And then my mum will start talking about how my dad's starting making it nights when he was staying up with my baby brother, and take out pictures of him making it or posing with my brother with it and stuff.
There are some sketches of me made by my dad before he died hanging up, but there's nothing that big or eye-catching, so my brother's picture always gets all the attention. I told my mom I wish she would take it down or move it away from the front door, so visitors won't be oohing over my brother's portrait all the time, but she said it was petty of me to want to hide away such a precious memento our family had of my dad. My brother was visiting recently, before going back to college, and he and my mom starting asking me if I remembered how my dad made those sketches of me to prepare for a second wood carving before he died. I guess I kind of snapped, and I screamed at them to stop rubbing it in my face that I would never get a nice wood carving like my brother, and never got to know our perfect father. I locked myself in my room, and later when they were gone, I went out and tried to break the carving. It was too solid, so I left the house and threw it in a neighbor's trash can. Then I went to my aunt's house. She could tell I was pretty upset, so she asked me what happened, and I told her. She got really angry at me and made me go find where I threw away the carving. It's pretty damaged and dirty now. Right now, I'm still at her house. Normally she's on my side when I complain about things being unfair, so the fact that she's upset at me makes me think maybe I really am very wrong. But I just am tired of things not being fair. Maybe I shouldn't have thrown it away, but I think my family triggered me by talking about my dad again. So tell me Aita here. Update 1. I started panicking when some of you said my family might never forgive me for what I did. Luckily my aunt is here to calm me down, and she's already texted my mom to let her know what happened. And she says the carving is damaged, but probably not permanently. She also went through the responses with me and helped say them in a less harsh way. So I understand what everyone is telling me. Lots of you said life isn't fair, and that's exactly what she says to me all the time too, just in a nicer way, I guess. I guess hearing it in a harsh way from Reddit is good to balance out how gentle she usually is when telling me stuff. Update 2. The background is my dad died when I, 16F, was very young, so I have no memories of him. My mom and my brother, who is 7 years older than me, of course have many fond memories of my dad. I often felt left out when the two of them would reminisce about my father. The way they would phrase it would be something like, "Dad was always doodling in his sketchbook. Do you remember his sketchbook?" I would feel left out, and like I was disappointing them by not being able to remember. Anyway, sometime when I was 13, I basically told them to shut up about my dad all the time. And there were much less conversations about my dad. None of us really understood then why the way we were communicating was so broken and hurtful for everyone. This was fine for a bit, over a year, until my dad came up again, and this is the day IFU. So my dad was a really good artist, an amateur woodworker. Around the house my mom hung up sketches he made of us as kids. Also hanging up is his masterpiece, this amazing wood carving he made. That's a portrait of my brother as a baby. It really looks incredible, very solidly built, this is important later, and looks like it's from a gallery. My mom had this hanging up right at the front. It was the first thing people see and comment on when they came in, and my mom would start talking about how my dad was really into art and woodworking, and would make sketches of his kids when he was staying up at night to put us to sleep. It would happen all the time, even with my friends, and this would annoy me and made me feel excluded again. So the day IFU, my brother was home from college and he said, "Hey, you know that wood carving of me that Dad made?" And my mom said, "You remember how your dad was always making sketches of you?" Anyway, at that point, it felt like they were rubbing it in, so I snapped, screamed at them to stop making me feel like shit for forgetting our perfect father, and went to my room. I was really emotional, and later when they left the house, I grabbed the wood carving of my brother off the wall and broke it in half on the ground. Or at least I tried. Luckily, it was carved out of a really solid piece of wood, or this would be an even bigger FU. So failing to destroy it, I settled for throwing it in a neighbor's trash can. Then I went to my aunt's house, who's always been someone I trust, and cried to her about the whole thing. She was sympathetic, but she made me get the carving back out of the trash and explained to me that my reaction was very wrong, and texted my mom to let her know I was okay. Then I made a post on AITA about the whole situation, and people were incredibly savage. I mean, not undeservedly so in the comments maybe, but I actually got like a borderline death threat in the PMs. Luckily, my aunt was there to go through the responses with me. She would generally explain why people were saying that stuff to me and rephrase it in a gentler way so I could see where people were coming from. It's a good thing she was there because otherwise I don't think I would have processed what people were saying. And then, the scope of the FU became even clearer later. It turns out that my brother was trying to tell me he had a surprise for me. He knew my dad was always planning on making a second wood carving of me. That's what the sketches were for, and he knew I felt left out not having one of my own. So he's taken it up as a hobby himself, and he used the shop at his school to make a carved portrait of me, based on one of Dad's sketches. They were trying to give me the gift when I flipped out, and they felt bad about making me upset, so they didn't know how to explain it after. In the end, my aunt helped us clear everything up, and we figured out a few things. My mom and my brother started talking me about Dad again, but learned not to quiz me about him, as if they expect me to remember. I sometimes feel sad hearing about someone I'll never know directly, but in a good way because it's nice to hear about someone who loved us so much. I can get to know him through my family's memories, and I know that they're trying to include me, and not exclude me when they talk about him. My mom wanted to put the wood carving of me my brother made next to the one of my brother that Dad made, but my brother said they don't really match. My brother says he's still a beginner at wood carving, so his style isn't the same as Dad's. I think mine looks great too. It's just like a different style. More etching like a coin than deep 3D carves like a statue, I guess. My brother doesn't want me to feel like it stands out as different next to the one Dad made though. So my mom alternates which one she hangs up at the front. Usually it's mine, because she says she's balancing out for lost time. Also, she makes sure mine is the one in front, if it's my friends coming over. When it's not there, I keep it in my room. My brother says he's going to keep learning wood carving, so he'll give me another version in the future that's more in Dad's style, but I really like the one I have now. It looks like something my brother made, based on art my dad made, so it's like I have a gift from both of them. As for the memento I almost destroyed, sadly there was some damage. We were able to clean it up, and fortunately the damage isn't so much on the actual portrait portion of the wood, just a lot of dents and chips to the edges and corners and stuff. I feel really bad about that, but Mom still likes to display and put it up, and said that this way it looks more vintage, and like I've made a contribution to this wood carving too.